All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, October 9th, and we are here for the Marion County Board of Commissioners weekly board session, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you would please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Under the Marion Water Quality Advisory Committee, approved orders appointing Gary White as chair and Brenda Sanchez as vice chair to the Marion Water Quality Advisory Committee with terms ending October 9th, 2026. Under Business Services, approved amendment number 1 to the contract for services with C.J. Hansen Company Incorporated to add $100,000 for a new contract total of $200,000 to continue to provide on-call commercial plumbing services through June 15th, 2027. Under Finance, approve a quitclaim deed for the private sale of tax foreclosed lot 533053 from Marion County to the Kane Joint Revocable Living Trust. Under Health and Human Services, approve amendment number 11 to the incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority to add program elements 12-01 Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program and program element 12-02 COVID-19 response to the agreement, and increase funding in the amount of $239,547.24 for the following, for a new contract total of $15,935,250.49 through June 30th, 2025. Increase funding in the amount of increase funding in the amount of $1,517.82 for PE 01-12 acute and communicable disease prevention, infection prevention training. Increase funding in the amount of $137,446 for PE 12-01 public health emergency preparedness and response. Increase funding in the amount of $33,331 for PE 42-03 maternal, child, and adolescent health, perinatal general funds, and Title.
I think it says at 19.
19, Title 19.
Yeah.
Getting back to my Roman numerals. Increase funding in the amount of $75,247.42 for PE 51-01 Local Public Health Authority Leadership, Governance, and Program Implementation. And decrease funding in the amount of $7,995 for PE 73 HIV Early Intervention Outreach Services. Under Human Resources, approve the health insurance plan renewal rate recommendations for the Marion County Law Enforcement Association and the Federation of Oregon Parole and Probation Officers Employee Group and the Marion County Employee Group for the calendar year 2025.
I second the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. All right, we're going to move on to action items. First, under Business Services, Tamara is going to come up and talk about software subscription agreement with Origami Risk.
Good morning, Commissioners. And today we are here to talk about a contract that will allow Marion County to enter into an agreement with Origami, who provides claims management, enterprise risk management, as well as tracking of incidents across the county. The current system that we have is very, I guess, non-developed. It's no longer part of the cool kid group, right? So it is something that's a little out of date, and we really need to take Marion County into the next phase of its management of its claims and really be able to manage its risks. This project has been reviewed by our ERP group to make sure that the system itself aligns with our future purchase of an ERP system, as well as we've worked with IT in making sure that it is in alignment with their protocols for software packages. This is an increase year over year for the county. However, we're going from a glorified filing cabinet to more of a managed system that will have dashboards as well as reports, have interface in the various departments, be able to get more tailored production and data out of that system. I will just let you know that this is funded out of Marion County Self-Insurance Fund. It's part of our year-over-year budget, and it is within the means of dollars available in that budget. William here today can talk to you about what it looks like. He has more of that practical experience with the system.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. And the
Just for the record, you have to introduce yourself.
my name is William White, Loss Control Coordinator for Marion County. Thank you, Commissioner Bethel. The origami system is a really robust system. Quite a few of our neighbor governmental organizations also use this. We've vetted some of the modules of it with other organizations out that use, such as the Enterprise Risk Management module. And this will really help us launch our enterprise risk management efforts within the county to assess risks that are down the road and really just get a comprehensive view of all of the risks that our county and our individual departments face. It moves us from glorified Excel sheets and, as Tamara mentioned, a retro system, very retroactive, it's woefully inadequate claims system into the future, and it'll just enable us to be much more effective in our roles.
So the contract is for $221,025, and that will be our first year contract fee, and that includes our setup. And then it gets reduced to $118,650 per year after the first year installation.
Okay. Any questions? All right, I'll take a motion.
All right, Madam Chair, I move that we approve the software subscription agreement with Origami Risk LLC in the amount of $695,625 to provide a risk and claims management information system through November 1st, 2029.
I second the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you. It's nice
Thank
to see
you.
you both. All right, I feel like we're going to spend the rest of our day with Public Works. Ryan, come on up. We're going to consider approval of amendment number 1 to the incoming funds, local agency certification program agreement with ODOT.
All right, good morning. For the record, Ryan Cruther, Marion County Public Works Capital Projects Manager. And as you said, I'm here to talk about our amendment to the Marion County Ferry Boat Operational Improvements, IGA. So our ferries are located at Wheatland and Buena Vista, both north of Kaiser and south of Independence. Our existing project scope includes building catwalks. You can see here, there's a sketch of what the catwalk will look like.
That's what I needed.
I wish people could be with us every time we have a conversation with you off the TV, so that way they know what the inside joke is.
For the record, I asked him what a catwalk was yesterday in our meeting, so he showed up with a picture
And
of a
who
catwalk.
drew one for you?
The sheriff did.
The sheriff
Yeah.
drew a picture of a catwalk.
Not because I didn't know what a catwalk was, I didn't know in this context what we were talking about. Because I
I
know what a
think it's
ferry
great.
is, and I was curious how you were going to incorporate a catwalk with a ferry, and now I know. So.
No, because I didn't see the sketch, I've got to know, was it close to
It
what
was
this looks
actually.
like?
We should
It
have
actually was
kept
like,
it. We
yeah,
should use
it was
for
it was
like
dead
some
on.
future.
I will
event.
say, especially because he's not here, I can use his name in vain. He only had one catwalk. He didn't have both. So, it wasn't perfect. There's room for improvement there, but it was pretty good.
Perfect.
I just love that he whipped it out so quick. He was just like, here you go, this is what it is.
So
Anyway, thanks, Ryan.
this is the existing project. We're already into design. ODOT asked that we incorporate our procurement, which will be what this amendment is, into this existing agreement so that we can manage it more effectively. So our project amendment, scope and purpose. This amendment will add these federally funded purchases to our existing agreement. There's a list of potential purchases. We need to define exactly what those look like with the funding available. The intent is to purchase items that will assist with our operations group, and so that they have replacement parts on hand and purchase parts that will make their work more efficient. So those could include drive shafts, propellers, sheaves, electrical equipment, security lighting and cameras, storage containers to hold this equipment on site, barges, wire rope. They obviously need all of these. And then some others are generator communication equipment, point of sale system. If we can determine how to implement that point of sale system, that is included as a potential purchase.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I'm super excited about that.
And then any other items that we can find that would improve operational efficiency.
Although it was suggested yesterday that we could just start Venmoing. I mean, who needs a point of sale system when you have all these electronic fund transfer systems? We could just adopt one.
My understanding is that service is limited at these sites. So that's
Like
one of our
data service.
data
So,
service.
I mean, then we should go with AT&T because I have no problem when I'm sitting on that boat with my service.
So our project cost, funding, and schedule. So this amendment adds $500,000 to the agreement. $400,000 of that is federal funding through the ferry boat program. That funding's allocated to Marion County. And then we have a $100,000 county match, or 20%. And then for the entire project, this is now a $1,063,019.63 project. And again, 20% of that is the responsibility of the county. We plan to procure these materials in 2025. With that, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but every time, I don't know if it's you we're always talking to about ferries, but I always ask you, and I asked yesterday, and Brian was able to confirm that the county funds, the 20%, because these boats are shared jurisdictionally, Yamhill County covers 50% of the 20% on the Wheatland Ferry. And since Polk County has vacated the agreement for the Buena Vista Ferry, ODOT covers 50% of the 20% for county funds. I just think it's important that we share that information so folks realize that it's a shared responsibility. Marion County is not footing the bill for something that is, multi-jurisdictional. But I'm looking forward to making sure they continue to run.
Thank you.
You have any questions?
No, but I'm glad that we always remind everybody of the other jurisdictions' financial responsibility for these shared
just
services.
saying. I'm not going to let them off the hook. They better be right in the traffic, or I'm going to call them myself. And you missed the photos. He brought photos for you for the other things.
I didn't miss the photos. You mean the ones that you put up there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I saw
good.
it.
Okay.
I was very appreciative.
All right, well, I'm ready for a motion.
Okay. I think to clarify part of what's going on here is I like to ask folks to speak slowly and use small words when they're describing things I don't understand. And Ryan, I appreciate that you took that to heart. All right, Madam Chair, I move that we approve amendment number 1 to the incoming funds local agency certification program agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation to add $500,000, of which an estimated $400,000 will be provided in federal funds. An estimated $100,000 will be provided in county funds for a new contract total of $1,063,019.63 for purchases to improve operations at both the Wheatland Ferry and the Buena Vista Ferry through June 31st, 2033.
I second the motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Thanks, Ryan. And now we're going to talk about construction contracts with HP Civil.
All right, thank you. Again, Ryan Cruther with Public Works, and now I'm going to talk about our Santiam River Gates bridge repairs. These repairs are on Sorvin Avenue in the city of Gates. It's the bridge that crosses from Marion County to Lynn County.
Just past the fire station?
Just past the fire station, yes, the big bridge up there. And you can see here.
We talked about this a while ago, like upstairs. Maybe it was recently, but I also recall we had a conversation about one-way traffic.
Yes.
Or
that's correct.
one-lane traffic.
That will be not my very next slide.
Okay.
It'll be in a couple of
It's coming.
slides.
Okay.
So the project scope includes repairing cracking on a north abutment wall, replacing an undermined approach panel. So what's happened is this approach panel is undermined. You can see through. There is no imminent threat at this point, but it needs to be fixed. So we want to get in there and make sure we make these repairs and get this bridge fixed as quickly as we can. We're also going to replace deformed bearing pads at our north abutment and replace the expansion joints at both ends of the bridge. The bridge was built 28 years ago, so this we're looking at these repairs to make sure we get significant continued life out of it.
Can you go back real quick?
Yeah.
What are the two pictures on the left? Because I can't tell if they're sideways or. I don't
They
know what I'm
are
looking at.
actually looking, so they're looking down. So if you were to be standing on the deck of the bridge, you can see through down to the river.
Okay, so the bottom right corner photo is is like the close-up of the two on the left.
The lower right, yes, that's the close-up where you're looking down from the top of the bridge down through. And you can see that separation where the bridge has started to separate.
Okay.
All right, our low bid came from HP Civil at $316,194.44. With that, we are planning to use county funds, road fund for this project, and get it done quickly. The schedule includes completing the work by December 31st of 2024. We do plan to limit this to a single lane traffic for no more than 40 days. Because the detour is significant, we don't want to close the bridge or close traffic between the two counties, so we're going to do it one side at a time. So that means no bridge closures, but there will be a single lane closure that traffic has to navigate with a yield to oncoming traffic sign. Our traffic groups vetted that with the traffic counts and kind of looked at the best way to get folks through here. And with that, do you have any questions?
I just want to know why this isn't a Lynn County bridge.
You know, I wish.
Do they, I mean, and I actually don't know the answer to this, and I know that they have actually more bridges than we have in their jurisdiction, but when we have a shared jurisdiction, how do you define ownership?
Man, that's a good question.
So I believe it historically, if Brian Nicholas, I believe he'll be here potentially, could answer that more clearly than I could. But a lot of times you'll see where bridges, we have split them up between jurisdictions. So we will take one, Lynn County will take another. I know Lynn County did the project on the bridge there in Mill City.
Okay.
And so I believe that one is their responsibility. And so we've each taken ownership of one.
Someone got around a table with jurisdictions and said, here's the river and all the bridges, and let's go eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yes.
Perfect.
You'll see a similar thing on the Scotts Mills Bridge between us and Clackamas County.
Yeah.
They did the project on the Whiskey River.
No idea.
There's another bridge that was repaired that is kind of a similar situation where they have one and we have the other.
Okay. Interesting.
Man, would I like to think and hope that it was a more in-depth process than eeny, meeny, miny, mo, but I'm really not sure.
I mean, I'm just saying, I like scissors to red tape, and I'd prefer if it was just eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and it'd be much more defined, in my opinion, than the things they tell me today from this date. All right, I'm ready for a motion, unless you have any questions.
I don't. Madam Chair, I move that we approve the construction contract with HP Civil Incorporated, the amount of $316,194.44, to provide necessary repairs for the Santiam River Gates Bridge.
I second the motion. Can you just quickly talk about what the communication to the public is going to look like? If this is all going to be done in the next few weeks, is there already messaging up there to let them know?
We will be working with our communications coordinator to get messaging out when this is approved. And so we'll make sure that we get Facebook posts, we put PCMS boards up that let folks know in advance of our projects that these are coming and that it will be limited. The benefit here is that we aren't going to close the road. So it won't be as big of an impact to the traveling public as some of our other projects, but we will still get messaging out. It's hard on this one because there's not a community nearby to send letters to. The people who travel this bridge come from further
Everywhere.
away.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we're getting the messaging out in ways that will reach those that actually use the bridge.
Okay, thanks.
Then we
All
still
right.
have to vote.
I got the first and the second and the discussion. I'm ready to take the motion to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. I didn't forget.
I wasn't suggesting that.
You're telling me to hurry up?
I was just reminding.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Ryan. Are you up for the next? Looks like Max is up for the next 4.
Max is up now.
Okay.
I'm going to dominate your schedule for the rest of the day.
I'm okay. I mean, before you walked in, I said the rest of the morning is dedicated to Public Works. So we're going to hear 4 presentations, and I'm not going to list them off. I'm just going to let you go through it.
Terrific. So Introduction, my name is Max Hepburn with Marion County Public Works. I am the Land Development Engineering and Permit Supervisor over there. So there are 4 action items that I'm going to be going over throughout this one presentation because it is all kind of part of the same overarching project that we are moving through with our engineering standards update. And some of these are items that we want to tackle and provide successful pathways for projects prior to the implementation of those new standards, hopefully in the next few years. So today I have 4 proposed board orders for board consideration to provide clarity where our engineering standards that were last adopted in 1990, as well as our TSP that was last updated in 2005, lack that clarity. And so, as I mentioned, the county is updating the engineering standards from 1990. I am currently the project manager for that project, and we are working with the consultant Kittleson and Associates to draft up something for board consideration and public feedback. So if anybody listening or in this room would like to be involved, please do contact me. My information is at the end of this presentation. So the first board order in front of you for consideration today is to provide reasonable access or secondary accesses to properties. This is a topic that I know you guys are well aware of, as it is a request that comes through quite often. The county's current standards, policies, codes do not have a clear pathway for those secondary accesses. And so today there is a board order, and we previously went through this back, I believe, in November of 22. So now to make this a formal board order, those 6 criteria that we've previously discussed would be physical constraints, access spacing as a matter of engineering is met, but no loop is created. So if you have a large, multi-acre property, we can get you one access over here and one access that lets you get over to, say, your well site or another crop that you have.
What is a loop?
So think of like a drive-through of like a McDonald's or a Wendy's, and so you've got one in and one out typically. And so what happens is we have like 2 driveways that are not one-ways, but they're like 2 agricultural 40-foot wide. We'll talk about that here shortly. But because they create a loop, it kind of creates this odd, almost a parallel road, if you will, to the public road, and creates a bit of a traffic conflict when you have, say, pull-in and pull-outs. And so if we can mitigate those down to, and that's the next item, one-way accesses, and we can create a loop, it allows for a safer movement of those vehicles in and out of property.
Okay, so,
Did that address your question?
well, I'm going to ask some follow-ups. I'm going to try to understand this.
Sure.
So, one piece of property, 2 accesses to that property. You said no loop created, spacing is met, no loop created. So in that instance, you have folks going in and folks coming out of 2 entrances, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
understand. In a situation where you have the 2 accesses connected, you have folks going in and folks going out of the 2 entrances. Tell me what the difference is.
So the difference would be one is an in on that second situation and one is an out only.
Nope. No.
Okay.
This is what I'm trying to understand.
Sure.
Where they don't connect,
Okay, yes.
we're anticipating a situation where people go in
Correct.
and people go out of the access
Correct, separately, yes.
separately, right? If they're connected some way, you also have a situation where people going in and people going out of the access. Tell me why the second situation where people going in and going out is different than the first situation where people going in and going out from a traffic safety perspective.
That is a fantastic question. I can tell you that the 2005 TSP, and this isn't going to address your question directly, and so I do apologize for that. Our 2005 TSP has a policy that says loop driveways are discouraged. And so to navigate within that policy, this was the framework I was able to design. I do apologize that I don't have a better traffic safety answer to your question.
So I get that you didn't do the 2005 TSP, but could you guess why would somebody not like loop designs or what like? Do you have some insight there? Or no?
Well, I live in an agriculture community, and I'm just going to say I have one of these. And most of our agriculture ingress and egress are not on primary roads. So I live off of a very busy road, but my farm driveway, which is a loop, is off of a non-busy road. Like it's the only thing that travels on it is farm equipment and the neighbors that, there's a dozen neighbors down the road. In order for the equipment to access a shop or not have, because the way my farm was designed, for them to be able to navigate my property, the loop is necessary. Otherwise, they're driving over crops. I'm concerned because I feel like we had a conversation specifically about this because I don't see what the big deal is unless we're talking about a major trafficked road. So the discouraged part, I understand if it's on a major trafficked road. Is this something that we're talking about imposing when there's a new design, a new property, or a new driveway request? Or are you going to go looking for?
Well, this is the problem. The problem that I know we run into with this sort of thing is I want to build a shop and I have to get a permit to build a shop. If I do, sometimes we have a situation where somebody says, well, wait a second, your current driveway situation doesn't conform. In order for me to give you this permit, you have to eliminate one of these accesses. So that's a scenario where I would be concerned, where somebody's existing state of being is being altered, not because they're trying to build a new access, but because they're trying to develop their property in some way, and they're being told they can't develop their property unless they remove an access that currently exists. So I think that's, it's somewhat.
It must be somehow allowed because I have a outbuilding that was permitted recently, like right before I purchased the property, and I still have the same access. But it was up to the interpretation of whoever reviewed that permit, which worked out, right, for the farm. But what you're suggesting is it might not work out based on the person interpreting it or the feeling that they have the day that they received the permit in your office, which definitely concerns me.
And so a lot of these concerns, the idea is in the new engineering standards to identify and be more prescriptive, if you will, with these types of factors to say, hey, we can really navigate these situations reasonably. As I think, we talked about this in 2022, so it has been several years since this initial draft. And so I would be happy to revisit this and re-present to you if you would like me to reevaluate and remove certain factors or language.
Well, let me ask you a question specific to my example. Let's say we adopt this and somebody does come in and needs a permit, and I have two driveways with a loop. It's possible that someone will say to me, you have to eliminate that or make it one way in, one way out in order for us to give you that permit, right?
The way we interpret our rules that exist today, yes.
So yeah, I think we need to have a conversation about, is that actually what we want?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I know this isn't the only one you're doing, so why don't we go to some other ones?
Sure.
Maybe we can set this one aside and we'll go to the next one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The second one for your consideration today is the existing non-conforming access materials on rural roadways. So we had previously discussed, again, this is quite a while ago, so I do apologize if it's been almost a year, that the county used to allow for concrete or essentially non-asphalt or non-gravel driveways to be constructed in rural areas of the county. What the county discovered at the time is that due to maintenance, whether it be chip seal or some kind of improvement on asphalt roads, we were impacting these concrete and non-asphalt, non-gravel accesses. So over the course of the years, we stopped permitting these. Concrete is usually the one that we found, access materials to rural roadways. What that would require in the event that we review an access is that if it is concrete today and it's in the rural area, we would ask that it be reconstructed to our existing standard, which is asphalt or gravel, even if it's not a safety issue. That is the way that the standards are set up. So what I have in front of you today for consideration is that we establish essentially a consent form that the property owner can leave the concrete or non-conforming access material in that has been in existence since at least 2016, given that it's as far back as our aerial imagery that's in-house with the county goes. so that they won't have to remove it. They can mitigate any vegetation under the permit or anything, but we're not going to ask them to correct the surfacing material, as it's not necessarily a safety concern.
And then basically what they do is they agree to not hold the county accountable for
Any
our work fixing the road,
Yes.
right? That's
Yeah.
kind of the deal. So it's like, we won't make you dig up and repave your driveway if you agree that if we maintain this road and we get some chip seal on your concrete driveway, you won't sue us.
In a nutshell, yes.
Yes, okay.
I support that, except for the pre-2016, which suggests that anything between 2017 and today, if they've chosen to do something and you don't have an aerial image of it, then you're going to require them to change it. Is that correct?
If they have chosen to do something, we wouldn't have permitted a new concrete access or brick or anything that is not asphalt or gravel.
Yeah, but
And so
how many
it-
people really come to you for a permit to just upgrade their driveway? Like, I get that there's some arbitrary rule on the planet that says they are supposed to. I don't obviously agree with that based on my tone. I think that we have to be very flexible about the fact that there's really no harm unless we're talking about them concreting an area that creates an impervious surface and creates all kinds of water runoff for them to be hindered after 2016.
Sure.
I would be concerned that we have folks that just upgraded their driveway and didn't get that permit, and then they would be potentially forced after 2016 to modify it back to the county's requirements, which is a substantial hardship, I imagine, for folks that likely didn't even know they should have gotten one. I would suspect that most people don't know that they're supposed to get a permit to add concrete or asphalt to a driveway, because it just seems like not necessary, even though it's required. So I don't know how you design that, but there has to be leniency for me to say yes to this anytime.
Sure, I'm happy to revisit it and re-present it for your
Okay.
consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you're not out to like get our neighbors, and I want to make sure that anybody who reads these rules going forward understands that we require that the most flexibility and understanding within the safety protocols and also appropriate drainage
Absolutely.
to not cause harm.
I think, I'm thinking about this. I understand how the aerial gives you the clearest way to implement this rule. I think the question that I would have is if we have a rule that says we don't allow concrete driveways, and people are putting in concrete driveways without permits, there is this question I have of like, well, do we then actually have that rule or not?
Is it our rule or is it a state rule?
So it is the county standard, and so there is a county process that they have to get, that individuals who are working on their driveways or improving their driveways require permits, and you were absolutely right. A lot of people, the general public, do not know that.
Yeah.
And so we do have this happen fairly every summer, where individuals have their driveways paved.
I know this
you
happens.
are absolutely correct. Where we do find that contractors come into the state and they perform work without permits for property owners who don't know that they need permits. And usually it's asphalt, so it's something that we just need to get the stuff corrected. But that said, there are individuals who unknowingly perform work without permits, and then we do work with them to mitigate the safety issues. It could be a hardship. You're absolutely right in that regard, that they thought they could concrete it, and that we say you need to remove it, and that's $10,000, $20,000 down the drain. Absolutely. So if your suggestion, and I'm open to it, is to modify this, that in the event we even find unpermitted work, that we allow it under this consent form, I am happy to revisit this and re-present it to you for consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I support that, and I do have this question of like, I think we need to decide whether or not we
I agree.
actually care that this is a standard. Because if effectively what we're allowing is we're allowing people to do unpermitted work and then grandfather it in on an ongoing forward-looking basis, is it even something that we care? I mean, I think that there's just like I
There is areas where I understand, particularly in urban areas, suburban areas. I went through this process with concrete and pervious versus non-pervious areas when I did major turf field projects because of water, what's the right word? Where water can build up, and then if you're adding a bunch of concrete, it sits and then it could flood runoff and it can destroy and cause harm. What makes me curious is this is predominantly likely an area where we're seeing it in the unincorporated areas of Marion County, particularly in very rural spaces where they do their own work. I don't care if it's asphalt or concrete, like they just don't, it's just like, I'm not quite sure why this is a rule. I would really like to understand, Jan mentioned something about 1999. 1990 standards. Yeah, so it's been a fair amount of time since we've probably dug into that. I'm sure you have it memorized, but there was probably a reason then that I don't understand now, and we're just different people. And I would also like to explore kind of the number of times in a summer where you're interacting with this type of a situation, and how much staff time are we really spending on trying to navigate something that's supposedly required, but like he said, we just grandfather it in.
Sure.
It doesn't seem like it's really, I would like to explore it further. And I feel like you have 3 more slides, we might do the same thing to. I'm super
All
sorry,
right,
Max.
let's set this
We
one
probably
aside.
should have had a
Let's
work
see.
session
Let's see
on
if we
this.
can get one approved.
Yeah,
Let's go to the next one, Max.
All right, well, hopefully, we can at least get one of these. So the third one for your consideration today is an access review self-inspection procedure, if you will. So it is a form, and there are instructions attached to it, and I assume that's in front of you, and I apologize that I don't have a copy in front of me. This was drafted to assist property owners in the expeditious review of their driveways that are associated with building permits. It does require right now that a staff member of mine go out, evaluate the driveway for public safety concerns or meeting standards, of which not all of them are necessarily, as we talked about with the concrete and asphalt, necessarily of safety, which is a challenge when we are, trying to enforce standards. But this would allow the property owner to evaluate those, give us the factors that they consider as far as they can see, give us some pictures, and that my staff members in the office can look at this and say, oh, they need to just trim up some vegetation, or maybe they need to add some gravel to get that thick enough base. Or if the culvert is say undersized or needs to be cleaned out, it would remove the staff time of driving out there, say out to the canyon, which is a good 45 minutes each way, and hopefully more expeditiously help our customers get their building permits.
Okay, so just describe, I think what you said is someone's gonna come in for a building permit, they need a driveway, or they have a driveway.
So either way.
Okay.
So if they need one, we will give them a permit to build one, and if they have one, we evaluate it for meeting our standards.
And so would it be your expectation that they bring like a video or photos of proof with their self-attestation, basically?
Photos, it looks
Yes,
like.
Okay.
photos.
What-
And
I don't know what document are you looking at? What's the title?
it is a very busy piece of paper.
Well, I have several, and I'm like, what?
So there is a table in there that I listed out what photos we would need to be able
Sure.
to evaluate it, as well as if there is a culvert, what photos.
I totally support this.
Thank you.
Totally makes sense to me.
Hey, 1 out
This
of
might be the
3 so
simplest
far.
one you have, Max.
Let's get a yes on this one.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
Take it.
which one is it?
Number 11, number
Okay, I'm gonna circle number 11.
I'll make the motion.
We'll come back to it.
Do you want me to make a motion on this?
No, it says we're doing them all, and then he's,
We are not doing them all. We are not doing 2 of them, so.
okay, well then, would you like to make a motion on number 11?
Yep,
Great.
when you get the yes, you gotta go for it.
Hey, I'll take
Madam
that
Chair,
lesson.
I move that we approve an order establishing the forms and procedures to be used by the Marion County Public Works Land Development, Engineering, and Permit staff as part of the access review self-certification process.
I second the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We got one.
You got a yes.
Perfect.
You
1
got
out
a
of
yes.
3.
I love
I'll
it,
take
and you know what? This is actually a great opportunity for the public to see what a work session looks like upstairs.
We're doing a work session at board session.
When we're working through it. And Max is like, I'm so glad it's me.
It's a good thing I had my coffee this morning.
You're doing a great job, Max. I'll buy you coffee after this.
All right, last
All right.
one. Let's see if we can get this one across the line.
Last one. No hard feelings if you say no. Okay. So
You'll just get to come back. The good news is you're salaried, so the money keeps coming, so you get to keep working. That's kind of how that works.
hey, I'll take it. All right. The last one up for your consideration today is clarifying expectations or standards for agricultural accesses. So the county's 1990 standards only speak to residential and commercial. And a majority of the properties in the county are neither. They are agricultural.
Yeah.
And so what this practice memo, if you will, would establish the board order is the standards that we would apply to agricultural accesses for farm use, essentially. And it's split out by agricultural, which would be, it's dictated by our zone code, what that means. I apologize that I don't have that memorized. But those would be anywhere from 24 to 40 feet in width, which should accommodate most agricultural vehicles. And then if you have like a maintenance for a field you're trying to get into with a mower or something, doing a typical 20 to 24 foot wide access. And of course, in the event that the vehicles that are used on the property require something wider, that gives directors discretion to accommodate.
Okay. So I think what this is, and I feel like we had, what I specifically recall was a conversation about a cornfield on West Dayton Road.
There
So
is.
as you're leaving Almsville, on both sides of the road, there's two major farms. More often than not, they're doing corn. One year they did clover. Either way. As you're leaving, heading south, there's a small bridge, and then the farms, and then some houses. Their access into those farms are basically just like what looks like a pull off,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not safe for them to have like, well, there's two things. One, they want to be able to farm as much as their dirt as possible. So creating any type of a entrance would reduce their ability to have a crop in that area. So what I see is these, sometimes double trailer trucks during harvest season are pulling off and then they're driving around this south end of the field to be filled. You like this description? Because you see it all the time out there. What you're describing potentially is to remove their current access design and make it look.
My understanding is that it standardizes the width. So basically, if you have a little pullout, this goes back to my example, and you need to get a permit from us, we would say you have to widen your driveway, your access. Or if you're coming in to get a new access, we wouldn't let you build it for smaller dimensions than are outlined here.
Or larger. Typically, the
larger.
request is, well, we want an 80-foot wide, or 60 or
Right.
something. And understandable, like there are certain pieces of equipment that necessitate that, and that's where we make those engineering judgment decisions.
This is my question, just to
Sure,
cut you
please.
off.
Yeah, no.
There's no obvious driveway to these farms. Most of them that are on high traffic roads do their best to just prevent traffic flow from stopping. And they just get off the road, they drive along the frontage of the farm property along the road, and then they figure out how they're gonna enter into the field. I would not want that to be changed because we're hindering a farming operation by requiring them to put up some type of shrubs, if you will, to design a driveway, which I think is ridiculous. In some actions, I think that makes sense. But for farms that are farming, I don't think it makes sense. And in fact, I feel like we got a complaint once where one of our departments said that a farm had to go put up a bunch of arborvitaes to define an entrance. Does that sound right? Because I don't support that, and I would not want this to become that.
Sure, and I hear you loud and clear, and that makes
Okay.
perfect sense. The way we do access closures, and I'm
That's
going
what
to
it's
kind of
called.
navigate this a little bit
Okay.
carefully here. So in the event that there is, let's say, an extra wide driveway, say 80,
Yeah.
this is where it gets a little gray, is where we say, okay, we see you've driven off here. but it's not a defined access and it's not necessarily a public safety issue. Your access is technically over here. That is where your legal access is, and that's what we're gonna work with. You know,
Yeah.
if it's widened over the years on, just through the tracking, say the dirt's kind of widened, we're gonna now narrow it down to, right now, it would be a 40-foot, as we squeeze that under our commercial standards. It does create some difficulty where there is no established ditch. And so we try to work with individuals on that. And so I'd be happy to revisit this, create some additional language that we can say, you know, if there is no defined ditch and we can see there's tracking, we will evaluate that as XYZ. And I'm happy to have that through a work session management update or whatnot and address any concerns, because I don't want to negatively impact
Yeah,
the agriculture community in any way.
sure.
I sort of understand the problem here, though,
Me
which
too.
is like, it's rough if every time somebody's doing a driveway, you're haggling.
Of our farms are gonna start putting buildings in the middle of their EFU land, because it's pretty impossible to do anything on this planet with EFU land. And I also know that farms have to be able to be, they have to have the afforded opportunity to be successful, and they need to be able to farm as much ground as possible.
Absolutely.
I would like the Farm Bureau to have a conversation with us about this.
Absolutely.
The width of the driveway isn't a problem for me. 40 feet is quite a distance, and they might have a suggestion as to something that you can put in writing for a specific variance that gives staff direction. I would also like to make sure that with director discretion for variances, an appeal to the board is written in every single policy, because even though I think folks know they can call the commissioners, and they do, that staff understand that there is a direct pathway to the commissioners who adopt these policies for discussion. But I think with the two we've said no to in this particular one, before I say yes, I would like to engage some of our farms. I can think of two off the top of my head right now, because it's harvest season, as in like October, Halloween harvest season, where they have dedicated driveways in their farms because they have whatever they have, you know, whatever Bauman's is.
Yeah.
Harvest parties. I'm curious what their thoughts are.
Sure.
Because they're an expanding farm. Same thing with Easy Orchards. In that very busy four-way, like what does John think about this? And if he was to need to pull a building permit, what would be the harm in this situation? I think he could give us that insight.
Sure.
And I know you're super open to that, and you said earlier, call me, so now I'm gonna call them in.
Sounds
In fact,
great.
I'm just gonna give you their information.
That'd be
But they won't be available to talk to you until probably January.
And that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, and as you guys know, the engineering standards is an ongoing project. And so a lot of this will be throughout that. And so whether these get addressed relatively immediately, say January, February, March,
Yeah.
or through that larger project, it's
I think I want it
Totally
done
fine.
sooner than larger projects. Larger project is a multi-year project, so I do want to nail these down. I also am supportive of having some sort of standard width for ag driveways, and I support the Farm Bureau and some of the farmers weighing in on kind of what's reasonable. Just because even if there's a variance or a way to kind of have an exception to the rule, I think it is helpful for staff to be like,
This is where we're at.
this is the standard width for ag driveways. I think that makes sense to me that we should do that. So, yeah.
So am I 1 for 4?
You're
Is that
1
the-
for 4.
Okay, I'll take 25%.
That's better than when you walked in this morning, anyway.
Hey, that is true. Small progress. I'll take it.
Would you, going forward, send these to us before board session in an email or come to management update? I know that there's a lot of work that goes into this, and I wouldn't want you to have to keep coming back and
Thank you.
only getting 25%.
I think we're
Sounds
closer.
perfect.
I think we're closer on the other three than we were before you walked in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Okay. So we already voted on the one we're going to approve. The other ones are coming back.
yeah.
Okay.
Do we need to do something specific on the agenda since they're listed? Motion to table.
Madam
There was
Chair,
something.
I will make a motion to, I'm going to do this and see if legal counsel gets mad at me. I'm going to make a motion to table items number 12, 13, and 14 to a future board session.
I second that motion.
Did I get away with it?
Is that good enough, or does it need to be described?
I actually am not sure any motion is needed, because if you're tabling, that means it's gonna come back in the same format as it currently is, which you've said you don't want.
That's right.
And so I think just
Oh, great.
no motion
No
is
action.
needed, we just
Great.
close everything out and it comes back later.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Max.
Absolutely, thank you.
I know that this is a lot of work, and I know that it's archaic, and you're really kind of pulling out the cobwebs, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
So before I close today's board session, I just want to welcome Steve.
Thank you.
Do you want to give an introduction of yourself, or do you want Colin to do it, or Jan, or brand new legal counsel?
Didn't know I was going to be put on the spot.
Well, it turns out you're on TV, and
I'm
we
on
like to
TV.
do this.
There it is. The
Yeah.
red light. I see the red light.
Yeah.
Yep.
John's up there operating it probably, right? All right, make me look good, John. Yeah, my name's Steve Alzinga. I've lived in Marion County since 2012, and my family is here, and this is our home. This is where we are dedicated to build our family and our community, and so I'm so thankful for the opportunity to join the county and work to make our community better. So thank you so much.
Well, welcome to the team. I know we have a lot going on upstairs in legal counsel. I'm sure they're thrilled to have. Are you guys fully staffed yet? No.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, we still have
I'm
job
working on
openings,
that.
So look at the county's website for any job postings. Maybe we can hire Bill. No? Shoot. All right. Do you have anything for the good old record today, Commissioner?
No, be a hero. Adjourn the meeting.
All right. We're adjourned. Have a great day.